مساء الخير وأهلا بكم إلى حلقة جديدة من واشنطن أونلاين. شهدت ضيفتنا في هذه الحلقة مجموعة من الأحداث الإقليمية الهامة التي أثرت كثيرا في الملف السوري. فضيفتي اليوم هي نائبة مساعد وزير الدفاع الأمريكي لشؤون الشرق الأوسط في عهد الرئيس الأمريكي السابق دونالد ترامب. سيمون لادين تراقب اليوم تحركات إدارة الرئيس الأمريكي جو بايدن، ولها انتقادات على ما يجري، خاصة فيما يتعلق باقتراب التوصل إلى اتفاق جديد مع إيران فيما يخص البرنامج النووي الإيراني. سنسأل سيمون لادين عن كل ما جرى في عهد الرئيس جو بايدن من تحركات تخص منطقة شمال سوريا وتوقعاتها للمرحلة المقبلة فيما يتعلق بالملف السوري، إمكانية التوصل لاتفاق نووي جديد مع إيران، وشكل الدور الأمريكي في المرحلة المقبلة في الشرق الأوسط. ابقوا معنا لمتابعة هذه الحلقة. وأرحب الآن بضيفتي السيدة سيمون لادين، تنضم إلينا من العاصمة الأمريكية واشنطن. أهلا وسهلا بك سيدة لادين. سأبدأ بسؤال عن فترة تواجدك في وزارة الدفاع الأمريكية في عهد الرئيس السابق دونالد ترامب. كان هناك بعض التوترات التي تحدث بين الجيشين الروسي والأمريكي، وبطبيعة الحال روسيا وأمريكا يعني متواجدتان في نفس المناطق تقريبا في شمال وشمال شرق سوريا. هل من الممكن الصراع اليوم في أوكرانيا، تصاعد حدة التوترات بين روسيا وأمريكا، أن تنعكس على الأرض السورية، على التنسيق العسكري الروسي الأمريكي، ويكون هناك المزيد من التصعيد؟
Hadil, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Yes, I do think that it's a very high-risk situation between Russia and the U.S. and Syria. It always has been, but I think right now tensions are heightened even further. Um, I'm gravely concerned for the safety of our troops and the patrols that they're conducting right now. I think they need to be very careful. But on the other hand, um, you know, our troops have been extremely professional. They've been met sometimes with outsized responses from the Russians, who are overly aggressive and have caused very dangerous situations themselves. Tried to escalate multiple times, but the professionalism of our troops, I think, has prevented that from spiraling out of control. So I think that's something that the U.S. Defense Department is very well aware of. They want to make sure that tensions don't overflow into a kinetic, battle. And so I hope that continues. That there are no actual troops in contact, and that we continue to safely and professionally conduct the patrols there.
نعم سيدة لادين، هناك اليوم إشادة من دول حلف الناتو وأمريكا في المقدمة بتحركات الرئيس أردوغان وتركيا الداعمة لأوكرانيا، رغم أن هناك من يرى أن كل هذا لا يكفي بالنسبة لحليف في الناتو. هل تلاقي المصالح اليوم الغربية الأمريكية من جديد مع تركيا ممكن أن تدفع الرئيس أردوغان لاستغلال هذا الواقع وبالتالي شن هجمات جديدة في شمال شرق سوريا؟ وكيف ممكن أن تكون ردة الفعل الأمريكية في حال حدث ذلك؟
I think that's a great question. I mean, even when relations between the U.S. and Turkey were what some would call at an all-time low, Turkey conducted incursions into Syria and, as we know, attacked the SDF multiple times. So I think that occurred when the U.S.-Turkey relationship was at an all-time low. That's not the case today. Turkey at that time was much more closely aligned with Russia. I think given all of the internal domestic challenges that Turkey has faced, and I think the pressure of the international community over time really affected not only the Turkish economy significantly, but also its standing in the world and among other nations. So President Erdogan has wisely taken a step back, reconsidered his relationship with Russia, and now we're seeing Turkey provide lethal aid to Ukraine, which is a big change. So yes, that could influence how the U.S. views Turkey's position with respect to Syrian Kurds. And yeah, if I were a Syrian Kurd, I would absolutely be paying very close attention. But it's difficult to say this, but I think reality dictates that I do point out that they've never really been safe from Turkish incursion and Turkish attacks. So I don't know how this changes things significantly. They're still under very severe threat, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
هل ترين أن العلاقة اليوم بين الولايات المتحدة وقوات سوريا الديمقراطية تصبح أكثر رسوخا بالتقادم وتتحول إلى شيء يشبه العلاقة بين إقليم كردستان العراق والولايات المتحدة؟
Well, I know that on the military side, there's a very strong desire to create this long-term relationship similar to the relationship with the Iraqi Kurds, with the Syrian Kurds. And I know they're very strong and important voices that do advocate for this. I do know that on the other side of things, there are many others in the U.S. foreign policy establishment who feel otherwise. And I would say it's not one party or the other party, by the way, in terms of political parties. So it's hard to say at the end of the day who will prevail. But I think the SDF have proven themselves over and over to be not only excellent partners, but have really we have fought and bled together over many years, and I think that ultimately means a lot. And I know within the Defense Department, and certainly those of us who have been involved over the years and have seen the extreme sacrifice made by the SDF. I think we all hold them in very high regard and deeply respect their service and sacrifice, and would be lucky to have them as long-term partners out into the future.
نعم، وبالحديث عن إقليم كردستان العراق، كلنا شاهدنا هذه الهجمات غير المسبوقة من قبل إيران بالصواريخ البالستية التي انطلقت من الأراضي الإيرانية واستهدفت أراضي في أربيل، وهي مناطق قريبة من المواقع الدبلوماسية الأمريكية إن لم تكن مواقع دبلوماسية أو عسكرية أمريكية بالفعل. هل كان الرد الأمريكي برأيك ضعيف على مثل هذه الهجمات؟ وهل هو انعكاس للرغبة الشديدة لدى إدارة جو بايدن بالتوصل إلى اتفاق سريع مع إيران حول البرنامج النووي الإيراني؟
There are many questions in that question, so let me try to unpack some of that. First of all, I do think it was outrageous that there's absolutely no reaction from the Biden administration on Iran's use of ballistic missiles into Iraq. U.S. presence or not, I think an attack against a sovereign country is something that the United States should always speak out about, and historically has always done so. So I think this is already a shocking change in policy that is unacceptable. I agree with you. I do think that this is absolutely related to the quote unquote Iran deal. I think all of the news and tidbits that have been coming out about what the U.S. is agreeing to with Iran are also shocking and unacceptable. And I know there's a movement, at least on Capitol Hill, among the Republican members to try to block any deal. And I know in the event that the next president is a Republican, there'll be a very quick move to undo any deal that might be done right now. I do think that the Biden administration's lack of, or their decision to not comment on the ballistic missile attack into Iraq was motivated by their desire to sign a deal. And I think Iran's calculus in shooting this missile was to assert dominance and to really place additional pressure on the Biden administration during these talks. And I think it's shameful that the Biden administration has reacted in this way, i.e. not commenting, allowing them to attack a sovereign country, whether or not we had personnel there or not. And I think that it's a dangerous time not only for the United States but for the world when you have such a weak U.S. president and such a weak U.S. administration.
نعم سيدة لدين، ربما اليوم إقليم كردستان العراق هو المنطقة الوحيدة التي ترحب بالوجود الأمريكي على الصعيد العراقي. ألا يقل نفوذ الولايات المتحدة في العراق حين تستخف بهذه التهديدات الأمنية من قبل إيران لإقليم كردستان العراق؟
I mean, I don't think we actually have a lot of leverage left in Iraq, unfortunately. I think we've given up a lot of the most important leverage that we had, and we gave it up in 2011. So I question what our long term strategy is for remaining there. What are we trying to accomplish? Because a lot of the kind of strategic elements to our plan in Iraq are not, I would say they're not realistic at this time, unfortunately. So I am one of the people who I don't know that it's in our strategic interest to remain in Iraq. I think that we need to be convinced as to why we need to stay. This was, as someone who worked for President Trump who wanted to leave, I also agree with that assessment. Why are we staying? What are we aiming to accomplish? And most importantly, why are we keeping our troops in harm's way? To what end? For what desire? What's our desired strategic end state? I don't think that's been made clear. And the more attacks that our troops face, and I know you said that Erbil is the safest place for them, but I think it's been proven it's not safe. So why are we keeping them in harm's way? I think it's an important question that serious people need to address, and I think the American people also deserve a very clear-eyed view and assessment of why that is. Why are we sending their sons and daughters to face ballistic missile attacks? Why is that so important to us? I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for someone to be able to explain that, because I personally don't agree.
نعم، يعني من اللافت أن نسمع من حضرتك أنك أيضا ترين أن هناك يجب أن يكون هناك فعلا انسحاب أمريكي من العراق كما رأى الرئيس السابق دونالد ترامب. وطبعا لا يخفى على أحد أن الإدارات الثلاثة الماضية والإدارة الحالية من أوباما إلى ترامب إلى الآن جو بايدن، هناك توجه نحو الخروج، الابتعاد بشكل من الأشكال عن الشرق الأوسط. اليوم حتى في الملف الأوكراني هناك طيف واسع في أمريكا لا يرغب حتى في أن تقدم الولايات المتحدة المساعدات العسكرية لأوكرانيا. ليس هناك رغبة بالتورط في الحرب الأوكرانية من قبل الناخب الأمريكي. هل هذا يدل على نهاية الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية كقوة عظمى مؤثرة في السياسات الخارجية؟
So I think you conflated a lot there that I don't agree with. So while I do question why we're in Iraq, I do not advocate for the U.S. to, quote, leave the Middle East. I think the Middle East is a very important region for our country and for our strategic position in the world. And I am a very strong advocate for the U.S. to remain in the Middle East. Our long-term strategy and our long-term competitor is China. The Middle East is very important to China, and we really cannot cede those relationships to China. So I have to take a little bit of issue with your statement there. I don't agree with what a lot of other people are saying about the U.S. position is leaving the Middle East. I think there's some nuance there, and I don't think that I don't think it's a good idea to be so dismissive about that. So that would be number one. Number two, The U.S. is involved in Ukraine in many ways. Just because we don't have boots on the ground there doesn't mean that we're not providing a lot of different types of assistance. And we clearly have increased our troop numbers in the region, but we don't want a land war in Europe against Russia. We don't want that. So, it's been interesting to watch, and I really applaud the Ukrainian. It's been interesting to see how quickly the Russian military advance has collapsed, how badly they've been fighting. I think they expected to have a quick incursion and not meet with any real kind of Ukrainian military capability, take more land and plant their flag. Well, that certainly has not happened. And I would also point to the fact that the U.S. has been training and equipping the Ukrainians since 2014. And I think their success militarily is in some way a reflection of the aid that we've been providing. So I certainly would not call the U.S. position weakened. Well, it is weakened from a political standpoint, but we are still very engaged in the world. And we still care a great deal. I know that American people right now are concerned about domestic problems, and rightly so. This administration has decided to stop drilling in the United States, even though we were energy independent by the end of the Trump administration. The Biden administration has made us dependent again on foreign oil. And we see the results in our pocketbooks by the incredible increase in gas prices that are hurting each and every one of us. So I think it's important to understand that, yes, we have immediate domestic concerns, but that doesn't mean that we're not also cognizant of our place in the world and our strong desire to maintain and grow the important partnerships that we've begun and have developed over these many years. So don't ever count the U.S. out. As I know there's a famous quote from Winston Churchill who said, the U.S. Will do the right thing after they've exhausted every other possibility. And I think sometimes it's just important to remember that every nation sort of ebbs and flows. The U.S. is still, in comparison to many, a very new country. And so I think, long term, I'm very bullish on the United States, and we will get through this, but never count us out. Never count us out.
شكرا لك سيمون.
Thank you, Hadiel.
وفي الختام شكرا لكل متابعي واشنطن أونلاين. ألقاكم في حلقة جديدة الأسبوع المقبل. إلى اللقاء.